Imagine losing everything, your soulmate, your home, your hope, all while two innocent children look to you for salvation. This is Helena's crushing reality after her husband's tragic death. But on the day she's about to become homeless, fate delivers a stranger to her doorstep, the very man who bought her foreclosed house. What begins with a broken toy car offered by a toddler's hand blossoms into something neither dared imagine. Before we dive in, if you are here, that means you believe in stories that move us. So just take a second and type hi in the comments. It might seem small, but it helps this story reach more hearts, just like yours. And the little bear said, "No matter where we go, we'll always be home when we're together." Helena's voice caught on the last word as 3-year-old Mia looked up at her with complete trust in her wide blue eyes. Jonas's eye. "Yeah? Game?" echoed Lucas, her 2-year-old brother, thumb inching toward his mouth as his eyelids grew heavy. As she tucked the children into their beds, the last pieces of furniture remaining in their rooms besides a few toys and clothes packed in plastic bins, Helena allowed herself to remember the whirlwind that had brought them here. Jonas's smiled that morning, 8 months ago, as he kissed her goodbye. "Big project today, Lena. If it goes well, maybe we can finally start that college fund for the Munchkin." The knock at the door that evening. 2 police officers with solemn expressions. The funeral she barely remembered, holding the children while they asked for Daddy, not understanding why he didn't come home. The insurance company's letter. "We regret to inform you that your claim has been denied due to a classification technicality in the policy." The mounting bills. The final notices with their angry red lettering. The hours spent on the phone begging for extensions while Mia and Lucas napped. Now, as she kissed her sleeping children goodnight, Helena wondered what rock bottom truly felt like. Was it this moment, or would tomorrow bring even greater depths of despair? In their tidy kitchen, everything already packed except one pot, a few dishes, and the children's favorite cereal. Helena made herself a cup of tea and spread the papers across the counter one last time. But the words remained the same. Vacate premises by 10,000 a.m. May 15. Tomorrow. She had called every affordable housing option within 50 miles. Nothing was available. The one friend who might have taken them in had just welcomed her own mother to live with her after a stroke. The cheapest motel in town would drain what little remained of their savings within a week. But where will that be? Helena stroked her daughter's hair, so like Jonas's in its thick, unruly waves. "I'm not sure yet, but we'll have an adventure finding out, won't we?" The question landed like a physical blow. Helena held her daughter tighter. "Daddy will always know where we are, Mia, always." Dawn arrived with cruel brightness, sunlight streaming through windows no longer softened by curtains. Helena rose early, assembling the children's favorite breakfast of heart-shaped pancakes and apple slices arranged in smiling faces. One last normal memory in this house. One last moment of safety before the uncertain future arrived. "Can we have syrup, Mommy?" Mia asked, already dressed in the outfit Helena had laid out the night before. Lucas giggled as syrup dripped down his chin, and Helena memorized the sound, storing it away like a talisman against the darkness that threatened to overtake her. He was early, the new owner, the faceless entity who had purchased their home at auction. Helena had imagined this moment countless times over sleepless nights. Sometimes she screamed and raged in her imagination. Other times she begged. But now, with her children looking up at her with curious eyes, she found an unexpected wellspring of dignity. "Mr. Delano?" Helena asked, her voice surprisingly steady. "Hello, mister," Mia said with careful politeness, executing a small curtsy just as Helena had shown her. "Welcome to our house. Do you like cookies? Mommy says we can share." And in that moment, as Helena watched confusion, discomfort, and something unnameable flicker across the face of the man who now owned her world, she knew that whatever happened next would define all their lives in ways none of them could possibly imagine. Arthur Delano had purchased over 300 properties in his career. Each transaction was methodical, impersonal, numbers on spreadsheets, addresses in portfolios. He had never once met the former occupants. His staff handled the messy human elements, while he focused on the clean mathematics of profit. Yet here he stood in a modest foyer, a small child offering him a slightly lopsided smile, while her mother, a woman with exhaustion etched into every line of her too young face, offered him coffee as if he were a guest rather than the man about to make them homeless. "I have to admit, Mrs. Morgan, I was told the property would be vacant by now." He tried to recapture his professional demeanor. "It's Miss Morgan, actually." Helena placed a mug before him, a cheerful ceramic piece with childish handprints fired into the glaze. "And yes, we should be gone by 10 a.m. as required. I just thought, well, there might be some questions about the condition of the house." The little boy, Lucas, he'd heard her call him, approached cautiously, clutching something in his small hand. He stopped just beside Arthur's chair, studying him with solemn eyes. Lucas extended his hand, offering a small toy car with one wheel missing. "For you," he said softly. Arthur stared at the toy as if it were an alien artifact. "For me?" Helena paused from where she was cutting an apple into small pieces. "Lucas, honey, Mr. Delano doesn't want your toy." "Welcome. Gift?" Lucas insisted with the determination only a 2-year-old could muster. "For new house." Arthur found himself accepting the toy, its plastic warm from the boy's grip. "Thank you," he said, the words feeling strange in his mouth. When was the last time he had thanked someone for something that held no monetary value? The little girl, Mia, studied him with unsettling directness. "Are you taking Daddy's house away because Daddy went to heaven?" "Where is your daddy?" Arthur interrupted, the question escaping before he could consider its propriety. Helena's face went very still. "Jonas died 8 months ago. Construction accident." She sat down across from him, her composure remarkable. "That's why we're here today." Arthur felt something uncomfortable shift inside him. He had reviewed this property's file but had registered only the cold facts. Mortgage default, insurance complications, foreclosure, standard procedure. He had not pictured this woman trying to hold her family together in the aftermath of tragedy. "Not really?" Helena smiled at her children, though the expression didn't reach her eyes. "But we'll be fine. We always are, aren't we, monsters?" Arthur found himself calculating figures, current rental costs in the area, average childcare expenses, entry-level salaries for someone re-entering the workforce with 2 dependents. The math was merciless. "What did your husband do?" he asked, sipping the surprisingly good coffee. Jonas was a foreman for Westridge Construction. He looked around the kitchen at the drawings, magnetized to the refrigerator. The growth marks penciled on the doorframe, the worn vinyl flooring that had been meticulously mopped and felt something he had not experienced in decades. Hope flickered across Helena's face before she carefully banked it. "That's very kind, but I don't want any special treatment." That night, Arthur stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse, staring out at the city lights. Behind him lay 4,000 square feet of designer furniture, curated art, and absolutely no evidence that a human being actually lived there. No toys, no drawings, no coffee mugs with handprints. He had spent the afternoon making calls, pulling files, investigating. Jonas Morgan, 34, had died when an improperly secured scaffolding collapsed. It was all perfectly legal and profoundly wrong. Arthur thought of his own father, a self-made man who had taught him that business was business, emotions were inefficient, and success required detachment. The same father who had died of a heart attack at his desk when Arthur was 12, leaving him a substantial inheritance, but little else. The memory of Lucas offering him that toy car turned in his mind. Such a simple gesture of welcome from a child who was about to lose his home. A week later, Arthur returned to the small house. The moving truck he had arranged idled in the driveway, 2 movers standing by respectfully. When Helena opened the door, her expression was resigned but compassionate. "Thank you for the extra time," she said, stepping back to let him in. "We're almost ready." The house was now completely empty, except for a few labeled boxes and 2 small backpacks, shaped like animals, that presumably belonged to the children. Mia and Lucas sat on a blanket spread on the living room floor, sharing a picture book. "Where are the children going while you settle?" Arthur asked. "My friend Angela is taking them for the day." Helena's smile was tight. "I told them we're having an adventure." Arthur nodded, then removed an envelope from his suit jacket. "Before you go, there's something I need to give you." Helena looked at the envelope warily. "What is it?" "Just some paperwork regarding the property." He handed it to her. "You might want to review it." Frowning slightly, Helena opened the envelope and withdrew the documents. He watched as confusion, disbelief, and then shock registered on her face. I don't understand." She looked up at him, her hands trembling slightly as she held the deed to the house now bearing her name. "Is this some kind of mistake?" "No mistake." Arthur handed her a second envelope. "This should help with immediate expenses while you find your footing. Consider it an advance on the wrongful death settlement my company should have paid immediately." "It's not charity. It's—" Arthur paused, searching for words to explain something he himself didn't fully understand. "When I was 8 years old, my father's business partner died in a construction accident very similar to your husband's, but our family had resources, connections." He glanced at the children, who were now watching them curiously. "Perhaps this is my attempt to balance the scales in some small way." Helena's composure finally broke. The carefully maintained strength that had carried her through months of grief and worry crumbled, and tears spilled down her cheeks. She pressed a hand to her mouth, trying to stifle the sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside her. Lucas toddled over too, wrapping his arms around his mother's neck. As Helena embraced her children, Arthur felt like an intruder witnessing something too intimate, too sacred for his presence. Now his silver Audi was a familiar sight in the driveway, appearing every Wednesday evening and Sunday afternoon with clockwork regularity. Today he arrived carrying a ridiculously oversized stuffed giraffe and what appeared to be a professional-grade kitchen mixer. Helena opened the door before he could knock, raising an eyebrow at his burdens. "Let me guess, you were just passing the completely inappropriate gifts for small children in their mother's store and couldn't help yourself?" He looked slightly abashed. "You mentioned wanting to bake more. I researched. This one had the best reviews." Helena shook her head, but stepped aside to let him in. "You know we can't keep accepting. It's just a mixer, Helena." His voice was gentle but firm. They'd had this conversation many times. "Arthur!" Mia came racing from the hallway, launching herself at him with complete confidence that he would catch her. He did, setting the giraffe down just in time to sweep her up. "Hello, princess. I brought you a small token." He gestured to the giraffe that stood nearly as tall as she did. Mia's eyes widened. "He's beautiful. Can I name him Arthur too?" "He doesn't have spots, Mommy." Mia giggled, already dragging the enormous stuffed animal toward her room. Arthur crouched to the boy's level. "Hello, young man. How are the block towers coming along?" Taking Arthur's hand with complete trust, Lucas led him to the living room, where an impressive structure of wooden blocks rose from the carpet. Arthur had brought the blocks last month, a handcrafted set that Helena had protested was too expensive, until he explained they had been his own as a child, stored in his attic for decades. The arrangement had begun as charity, though he refused to call it that, but had evolved into something neither of them had anticipated. Arthur had connections at a high-end furniture showroom that needed a part-time design consultant. Helena had an eye for color and space that surprised even herself. Now she worked 3 days a week while the children attended a preschool program. Arthur had coincidentally discovered had scholarship openings. She was building a life again, piece by piece, but she was increasingly aware that Arthur was becoming a cornerstone of that construction, a reality that both comforted and terrified her. "Mommy?" Mia appeared beside her, tugging at her sleeve. "Can Arthur stay for my birthday party, please? But I want to ask him now, before he goes away." "I'm not going anywhere," Arthur said, looking up from where he and Lucas were adding blocks to the tower. Mia fixed him with Jonas's blue eyes. "Promise?" Something flashed across Arthur's face, vulnerability so rarely glimpsed that Helena almost missed it. "I promise to be at your birthday, Mia," he answered carefully. Later, after the children were in bed, Helena joined Arthur on the back porch where he sat, nursing a coffee. These quiet evening conversations had become a ritual, neither acknowledged but both protected. "The mixer is too much," she said, but the protest had lost its earlier edge. "Consider it a business investment. Those cookies you made for the showroom opening attracted 2 new clients." She smiled despite herself. "Always the businessman." "Not always," he murmured, his eyes on the darkening sky. "Not lately." The weight of unspoken things hung between them, questions neither was ready to ask, answers neither was prepared to give. "Mia's getting attached," Helena said, finally. "Lucas too, in his way." Arthur nodded slowly. "And that concerns you. They've already lost one man they loved." I can't. She stopped, the words sticking in her throat. You can't risk them being hurt again, Arthur finished. Or yourself. Helena looked away. Angela says I'm being ridiculous, that I should snatch up the handsome Millionaire before someone else does. Arthur's laugh held little humor. Your friend has a refreshing perspective. She doesn't understand. She thinks this is some Cinderella story, poor widow rescued by Prince Charming. Helena turned to him, suddenly angry. Is that what you think this is? You ride in on your white horse, throw money at our problems, and we all live happily ever after? That's not what I meant. As soon as the words left her mouth, Helena regretted them. Arthur's expression closed, the openness of the past months replaced by the cool mask she'd first encountered. I see, he stood with fluid grace. Thank you for clarifying where we stand. Arthur! The night before Mia's party, Lucas's preschool held a small spring performance. Helena sat alone among pairs of parents, recording her son's earnest rendition of You Are My Sunshine on her phone, fighting the hollow ache in her chest. You came, she said unnecessarily. Later, after Lucas was asleep, they faced each other across her small kitchen table, the same table where their story had begun nearly a year before. I thought you'd decided we weren't worth the complication, Helena said, her fingers tracing the wood grain. Being good enough. The confession seemed to surprise even him. I have no experience with family, Helena. With children. With... He hesitated. With love that isn't conditional on performance. I'm afraid too, Helena admitted, of depending on you, of the children loving you and then losing you, of betraying Jonas's memory. Arthur reached across the table, his hand covering hers. Jonas will always be their father. Nothing changes that. But perhaps there's room in their lives, in your life, for something new. Something different, but equally valid. The next day, Mia's birthday party filled the small backyard with laughter. Helena watched as Arthur helped her daughter unwrap gifts with the solemnity of a man diffusing explosives, his face lighting with each expression of delight on Mia's face. Lucas had remained glued to Arthur's side all day, occasionally reaching up to touch his sleeve as if reassuring himself that Arthur was really there. They've missed you, Helena said, as they cleared away the remnants of birthday cake. Arthur nodded, something vulnerable in his expression. I've missed them too, all of you. A week later, they gathered in the backyard again, this time to plant a young maple tree. Arthur lifted Lucas so he could help pat soil around the slender trunk, then did the same for Mia. Will it grow big enough for a tree house? Mia asked, her hands happily covered in dirt. Like a family? Lucas asked, the question startling from the usually quiet child. Arthur's eyes met Helena's over the children's heads. Like a family, he agreed softly. Actually, there's something I should tell you all. This house, he paused, glancing at the modest structure that had become so much more than walls and a roof. My mother grew up here, before my grandfather's business took off. I didn't know when I bought it at auction. But maybe that's why it felt important to come inside that day, instead of sending someone else. That some things are meant to be? Arthur smiled, reaching for her hand as the children continued patting soil around their tree. I'm saying that sometimes life takes everything away, only to give you something you never knew you needed. As the four of them stood in the golden light of late afternoon, Helena felt Jonas's presence not as a shadow over their joy, but as a blessing upon it, a recognition that love never truly ends, but transforms, making room for new beginnings when fate unexpectedly knocks at your door. As Helena and Arthur stand together watching the children plant that maple tree, we're reminded that life's most beautiful chapters often begin when we think our story has ended. Sometimes, the knocks at our door aren't endings, but beginnings disguised as goodbyes. As someone unexpected changed your life's direction. As a stranger become family when you needed it most. Share your story in the comments below, because every time we tell these stories we remind each other that hope exists, even in our darkest moments. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to our channel for more moments that prove second chances aren't just fairy tales, they're waiting for us, sometimes in the most unexpected places. Remember, the deepest wounds can create the most beautiful scars, reminders not of what we've lost, but of how we found the courage to begin again. Like Helena's family, your broken pieces might just be waiting for the right hands to help rebuild something even more beautiful than before. This isn't just their story, It's a reminder of what's possible in yours.